Rolling in 3, 2. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those who know what the hell you're yet. Hopalong PR here, and with Legend of Heroes month, I've decided to throw my hat into the ring and tried to explain why Legend of Heroes is so fucking fantastic. Now, because this is the internet, I need to say that this is based on my opinion, not your opinion. Me, yes. You know. Also, massive spoilers ahead, so where the fuck do I even begin with this? This series is so fantastic for a multitude of reasons, and God knows I'm going to try to share those reasons with you. Overall, I'd say the main reason that the Legend of Heroes games are so awesome is because they break a rule of video games. Well, more like the rule of video game. Gameplay first. Well, more like they bend the rule of gameplay at first. The Legend of Heroes franchise focuses on storytelling through gameplay. The stories are enriched being in the medium of video games. So from here on out, when I refer to storytelling, I'm talking about how effective just playing the game reveals its characters, lore, secrets, and how they tell their stories. And what the hell of a story do they have to tell? So let's begin at the beginning of these games and how they capture the player's interest. Alright, so I'm going to assume that you're going to start your foray into these series with the first game of either Trails of series. Either Trails in the Sky First Chapter or Trails of Cold Steel 1. Each of these games start off with an event that captures your interest immediately. In Trails in the Sky, we're introduced to a mysterious boy who is brought home by Cassius motherfucking Bright. In Trails of Cold Steel, we witness a massive cannon fire and allegedly decimate an entire city. After these events, there are time jumps, either forwards or backwards. The point of these incidents are multifaceted. Not only are they used to get our attention, but they serve as introductions to these characters. From that moment forward, we're curious about these people and how they fit into the world and events that we just saw. What does it all mean? How did these characters end up in these situations? What type of people are behind these acts? Which brings me to my next point, character writing. In most games, we're introduced to characters mainly out of need of story, written trite situations, where they're absolutely relevant to the plot at that point in time. That's not the case in these series. In every case, we're introduced to who they are and what type of person they are. Sure, they might help the story progress, but it never feels forced, and everything feels authentic. Not only that, but these characters aren't two-dimensional. Each character is not only well-defined, but you get to see each character start to change by direct results of their actions in the game. The character developments in these games are best represented by the theme of growth. To best explain what I mean, let's look at Prince Olivert. Prince Olivert has been in every Legend of Hero game so far, and his role is pertinent to the overall plot of the game. We're introduced to him under a false guise as a wandering minstrel who just does what he wants and gives zero fucks. But there's an ulterior motive there. While traveling through the land of Liberal, he uses it to strengthen his personal resolve and see how efficiently a government can operate with a less tight grip over their people. He's primarily trying to steel himself for his upcoming battle of wills against Chancellor Osborne. That's pretty cool in itself, to see his trip and his takeaway in the Trails of Cold Steel games. But there's something else that happens that shows character growth in matters of power. Olivert has a rival, Blue Blanc of Ouroboros, and originally he doesn't stand a chance in Gehenna against him. But with 3 Trails in the Sky games, we get to see him grow into a powerful warrior, capable to stand up to his rival. The theme of growth is clearly seen with Olivert's character, and it's not just limited to Olivert. We see other characters grow in similar ways. We see Agate grow into a kinder person, Chloe grows into a strong, determined princess, Kevin accepts himself and his past, and Machias gets his head out of his ass. But in a funny twist of fate, the main characters don't really have such a defined arc. Instead, they're used as a catalyst for the others. That's done on purpose too, which brings me to my next point. This franchise puts you in the driver's seat of these games, and all of your actions spur on everything and everyone. This makes you feel like all your actions have a certain weight to them. So much so that you feel directly tied to the land that you're traveling in, and you legitimately want to help out the nation of your own will, compared to just doing so in story-driven events. To illustrate my point, I'm dragging Final Fantasy 15 into this video, and simultaneously rip on that game while praising Legend of Heroes, primarily looking at the difference in storytelling, use of worlds, and battle systems. Alright, so here's the thing. All these games put you direct control over the main character, and each game has a defined course of action. Estelle wants to be a bracer, Reen wants to serve his country, and Bitch Baby, Noctis, is the chosen one on a mission to save the world. Now from these 3, you'd think that Final Fantasy 15 would be the most interesting, but it couldn't be further from the truth. See, here's the thing about chosen one situations. You are destined to do all the shit you set out to do. You don't get a say in your course of action. You're the chosen one, and your actions are just according to your destiny. You don't have any sort of free will. Your actions are destined to happen. Sure, you could argue that in the fact of the game you're playing and you get to choose what you do, that makes it unique or special. However, strictly from a storytelling standpoint, your actions don't matter. You're a chosen one. These things are automatically expected of you. Whereas you have these normal people, Rena and Estelle, who choose to help those around them out of the kindness of their hearts. From a storytelling standpoint, that makes the main character more compassionate and special as an individual. There's no divine force driving Estelle and Rena, which makes your actions actually feel special from the goodness of your heart. Not because you're supposed to, but because you want to. There's more value to storytelling in video games when you feel like your actions matter. The completing of quests are significant. Side quests feel like you're further enriching your experience. Talking to NPCs in the game feels like a natural thing to do. In short, you want to do everything you can to absorb the entire game and its world. You want to explore the land and do all the stuff in Legend of Heroes games. But in Final Fantasy 15, it kind of felt like a chore to do. Listen, the entire land of Erebonia is set up to be a massive country, but they knew that it didn't need to feel like it was huge. It was filled with interesting towns and places for you to explore with ease, and it never took long to get to these places. There was a lot of gameplay in these concentrated places, whereas Final Fantasy 15 had a lot of emptiness that served no purpose other than make the world larger and takes you forever to get to different places. Sure, quick travel is a thing in both of these games, but it was beyond necessary for Final Fantasy 15 because they knew traveling in their world was complete bullshit and utterly boring. They even give you complete soundtracks of other games to pass the time while you're stuck slowly traveling through their massive world. Why have a huge world if there's not enough stuff in it? Legend of Heroes worlds were dense and concentrated in the right places. Even in their wilderness sections, they were worth exploring because of all the goodies spread throughout and how easy they were to get. Yes, you can gather resources in Final Fantasy 15 over the land, but it's done in such a fashion that it's just tedious. Also, let's talk about the magic and battle systems really quick. Magic is practically an essential part of any RPG or JRPG, and battles can make or break a game. In both of these games, magic technically isn't something given to you, but if you want it, you'll have to look for it. Skills are also chosen for the characters. However, in Final Fantasy 15, you can't set up your characters completely free and customizable builds for battle. I.e., you can't have a battle mage, you can't have a cleric, you can't set up tanks, you can't set up status effect builds. Essentially, each character is on a predetermined path, and each character's path isn't anything distinct. All of them seem very samey. Sure, Final Fantasy 15 skill trees are vast and offer a wide variety of perks, but you're stuck with what the character is already programmed to be, and has the single most asinine magic system ever. They treat magic like a resource, and it runs out pretty quickly. Whereas Legend of Heroes games allow you to build whatever character build you want. Want a healer? You got it. Want a tank that burns, freezes, and debuffs your enemies with a simple attack? You got it. Want a build that delays your enemies to prevent them from ever attacking? You got it. Remember how I said earlier that magic was something that you had to look for? That's based out of need, because spells are never learned. The battle system in the Legend of Heroes game on the surface seems simple, but it's actually pretty complicated. Don't worry, I'll keep things simple and broad, so it's nothing too complex. See, each character has something called an orbment system. What it is, it's a device that with slots open in them. I think 7 or 8 slots, but those limited slots you can make incredible character builds. You get things called quartz that allow an individual property. It could be an offensive magic skill, a healing skill, a status boost, or a debuff that you can pass along to an enemy with an attack. This allows you the freedom to set up some pretty decimated character builds. If you want a good Final Fantasy battle system similar to this game, look at Final Fantasy VII's Materia system. Alright, I could be here all day ripping on Final Fantasy 15, but I shall move on. Now back to the fantastic storytelling of Legend of Heroes. It's a very simple aspect of storytelling that this game does extremely well compared to the other games. The attention to detail is sublime here. Now I say attention to detail, and there are a few ways that they do it. The first one I'm talking about are the NPCs. Normally games use NPCs as just throwaways. As tools, they let you know some bullshit, or on the rare occasion, give you hints about side quests. While the latter happens here and there, the NPCs paint a picture in these games of the nation and times that they live in. They give you little snippets of info that add to the overall story, whether it be about their government, some suspicious characters, or anything else that give you information about the current events, both publicized and hidden. And unfortunately, this is an element of the franchise that gets overlooked very easily, and I blame the current RPGs and JRPGs for that. See, most current RPGs and JRPGs focus on a central story and give little to no regard to the overall picture of the world. The beautiful part about the franchise is that it's more than just a single game. In a lot of the games, the situations just point to the end of the game. But the Legend of Heroes franchise builds a big interconnected world. People love that jibs in their pants about the Marvel universe and how each movie is connected to each other. Bitch please. We're talking about 8 fucking games in the same world as each other. The cool thing with this franchise is that they are constantly linking things to events and people from other games, making all the actions the characters do actually feel like they're shaping the world and the lore. But the fascinating thing is that you can enter the series at any point as long as it's one or first in the series. The world is the same for all these games, but they take place in different places in the world. Liberal, Crossbell, Erebonia, and Lord knows that Calvard is next. See, you learn about all these nations coexisting with each other, and what tensions exist between the nations, and possibly the same characters in between nations. In the case of cross-country existing, I want to focus on a certain character. That character is Kilika. Kilika was originally introduced as a Bracer Guild representative in Liberal, who hailed from a dojo in Calvard. What's more is that Angelica, a character in Trails of Cold Steel, stated that she learned her fighting style from a traveling mistress from Calvard, which I'd like to think is Kilika, but there's no proof of this. Also, Kilika was asked by the President of the Calvard Republic to be the leader of a private squad that responds directly to the President, which I know full well will be relevant whenever the Legend of Heroes series moves from Erebonia to Calvard. I bet all of you that she'll be a leading support character to the characters in the next Trails of series. Alright, so let me get back to how details in these games set them apart from the other. Now, this game understands something that is quintessential for gameplay, and that is communications. Now, there are 3 different forms of communications that are used in many of the games, actually all of them, but we'll be looking at Trails of Cold Steel 2 in particular. The first form is verbal, and with the NPCs we covered that. The second is written, and let's look at something that is special in the Legend of Heroes franchise in that regard. They have running book series in the games, and we're talking about full books, nothing skimpy and plenty to read. Certain books are actually based on other characters in the game too. There are also newspapers sprinkled throughout the games giving the lowdown on national events that are going on elsewhere in the nation, where the characters aren't. Those are definitely nice and allow an additional aspect of storytelling, but there's one written thing that I want to focus on in particular. I want to talk about the Black Records. The Black Records are a new game plus bonus for Trails of Cold Steel 2, and has some very interesting events as a part of written history. They range from a famous war called the War of the Lions to a suspected origin story of all life, as 2 massive beings fail to coexist with each other. Now, these might be ruled out as a fairy tale, but that's when the first form of communication comes back and has Instructor Thomas reveal his identity to Reen, that he's second in command of the Grail Flitter, and reinforce the black documents and the history they hold. I feel that Thomas is going to be a very important person in the game's lore telling from this point, and with his enlightenment he provides Reen, he's practically confirmed that there's more to the overall story than what's on the surface. Like, he casually mentioned the existence of 2 Septarians in Erebonia. Now, I imagine that all that will come to light in Trails of Cold Steel 3, but since it's not localized yet, I can only make assumption. Where's that again? Oh yeah. Forms of communication. The third form of communication is nonverbal communications, and while it usually refers to body language, there's a beautiful example of nonverbal communication that provides a powerful scene and sets up the stage beautifully for a follow-up in the new game, the disbanding of Class 7. Now, it's never explicitly stated, but it's because of the changes in the world. The disbandment of Class 7 wasn't something that was wanted, but the new regime change, aka Osborn's regime, no one wanted a career in the military, aside from Reen. In fact, it's all because of how dynamic their characters are that they left. Machias and Eustace are set up to take after their fathers. Elliot, Elisa, and Laura are chasing their dreams, and Emma, Gaius, Fee, and Milliam are already set in their ways or all previously committed roles in life. In fact, the only one of Class 7 who didn't have a set goal or dream was Reen. So isn't it funny that the only one who stayed in school was the one who didn't know what they wanted in life? So with that set up, we can see how the class can grow up following their own desires, whereas Reen is more likely being manipulated by Chancellor Osborn. Which, funnily enough, brings me to my next point. The villains in these games are the best villains ever. Alright, so I'm going to be looking at 3 individual villains and how they're structured. The first one I want to look at is Chancellor Gileath Osborn. Now, we see him as a very complex character, because from a certain standpoint, he isn't a complete villain. All of Osborn's actions are for his nation of Erebonia, but as the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Because of his aggressive actions, he's earned the title of the Blood and Iron Chancellor. His actions range from hiring Jaegers, which are mercenaries, to eliminate targets secretly as to not to sully his reputation, use his pull and influence to destabilize countries so they could be absorbed by Erebonia, collude with a shadow organization called Ouroboros, and he bought land owned by citizens in order to build a massive train system for his nation. Now, that might not sound like a bad thing on the surface. See, most of the people he bought land for didn't consent to it, and a lot of times it ruined the family's life, because they loved farming and their worlds were torn apart because Osborn had to have his train system. Now, Osborn's desire to build a train system was rooted from his desire to expand his influence across Erebonia. It's not that hard to extend your reach over the land if you can freely travel across it. All of these things earned him the title of the Blood and Iron Chancellor. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that he plunged the nation into the Civil War just to emerge as the person to end the Civil War, having all the people revere him as a hero. And you know, squashing the opposing force of government is pretty convenient too. Next up is Enforcer number 10 of Ouroboros, Blue Blanc, the Phantom Thief. Now I mentioned him earlier with Prince Olivert and them being rivals, so that's one layer of character they have. He's also known throughout the countries as a notorious thief and how remarkable his exploits are, some of which you get to remedy. But Blue Blanc doesn't steal for personal gain. He's usually just fucking with someone and trying to agitate people by leaving a trail of breadcrumbs to lead them to the treasure. So that adds another layer of character to Blue Blanc. With these layers we see him as a villain, or at least a mild pain in the ass. But then we get to see his origin and what caused him to go down his path in life. In Trails in the Sky's 3rd chapter, we discover his origin story and an optional quest. So we get to see how he was spurred on to start his life as a thief. Some of you out there might have heard the word Ouroboros. Well, Ouroboros is a hidden and secret society that have been pulling strings for many plot throughout time, and it is the coolest evil organization ever. The initial reveal of Ouroboros in the Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky is so amazing that I'm not going to ruin it for you. Just know it's cool as fuck. Now let's focus on the third villain, or suspected villain, the Grandmaster, the one running Ouroboros. They have essentially set up a hierarchy of powerful villains that expand their reach over all the nations. How did that happen? Who set it up? Who knows? But they have the strongest, smartest baddies working for them. Now little is known about the Grandmaster, but there's a running theory out there that I'd like to address. That theory is that the Grandmaster is actually the goddess Eidos. That would explain how they can make super weapons through something called divergent laws. Nice theory, but I'm not sold on it. If anything, I think the Grandmaster is one of the two celestial beings that is revealed in the Black Records. One is Eidos, the other is the Grandmaster. Alright, let me reel this in. I got slightly off topic with theory talk. One of the last things I want to talk about is their usage of the medium, i.e. video games, to tell a story. Now each game has its own distinct plot that it follows and lets players enjoy. Fantastic plots I might add, but it doesn't stop there. See, all the lore and characters details are scattered throughout these games that reward their players for being thorough while playing. That's something books can't do. Now, I imagine somewhere on this planet there's a giant-ass script that details almost everything about the Legend of Heroes, but it'd be a fucking nightmare to read because of how much shit is constantly happening and how much information is available that isn't pertinent to that game's direct plot. Moreover, would you even be able to remember everything? Well, at least in my ADHD-riddled mind, there would be no way I'd remember everything I read, or even a vast majority of details. So to avoid over-encumbering their player with massive amounts of plot shoved down their throat, they let their players discover these side details, little bits of time, to reward the player and make them feel like the information they received is important. And as we all know, if you get rewarded with something, you'll appreciate it and remember it more than if it was just given to you. Remember I said at the beginning that they bent the prime rule of gaming? Well, they set up a game to tell a story. A beautiful, harmonious marriage of gameplay and story. The conveyance in this game series is untouched by any other game series, ever. Try to give me a series that can match the Legend of Heroes. I dare ya. Can't do it, can ya? Now as we near the end of this video, I want to share some of my ideas and predictions that I have about the game series. If I say something and it is A, already confirmed, I have no idea about that. B, logic and my ideas don't necessarily coincide with each other. C, there's an idea that has been stated elsewhere, I'm completely unaware of it. D, there are 3 whole games out there that I haven't played yet. So let's kick this off with one that I'm most confident about. After the Trails of whatever games that take place in Calvard, there's going to be 1 or 2 more games afterwards that will feature all the Legend of Heroes characters, or at least the main characters, like Joshua, Estelle, Renee, Olivert, Reed, or whoever else matters in the next Trails of series. The second one that I'm pretty sure of is Olivert is going to die if Chancellor Osborne survives. If Osborne dies for real, then Olivert will more than likely live. The third is that sometime, some way, somehow, we'll see the fall of current badasses. 2 examples are Cassius motherfucking Bright and Victor Arcade, and we'll see the next generation of heroes take over. It's almost like we're witnessing these Legends of Heroes play out. There's a double agent in Ouroboros and the Church. Who their allegiance belongs to? I don't fucking know. Campanella is the Grandmaster, and he just loves fucking around with people, pretending that there's a separate entity called the Grandmaster. And finally, my least relevant and important idea is that there's going to be a drinking contest between Scheherazade and Sarah. Wait, Sarah. Glad to see they really got creative with building similar Guardian type characters. Alright, so that's going to be the end of this video. I'm 8 pages into this voiceover script and my voice is fading faster than Blue Block after a heist. So thank you everybody for watching. If you have anything you want to say, make sure it's down in the comments below, and thank you for staying weird.